Hi, I'm Chris Frame and welcome back to my channel. The Cunard Line flagship Queen Mary 2 is often referred to as the last of the great ocean liners. Ordered by Cunard in 2000 and built at Le Chantier de l'Antique shipyard in Saint-Nazaire in France, QM2 is the first true transatlantic ocean liner created since QE2 entered service in 1969. Designed by Carnival Corp's Chief Naval Architect Stephen Payne, who oversaw a team of naval architects, QM2 is a feat of marine engineering and has an expected service life of at least 40 years. When QM2 entered service in 2004, she was the longest, tallest, widest, largest, and most expensive passenger ship ever created, while to this day she holds the title of the largest ocean liner ever built. You can find out the difference between an ocean liner and a cruise ship at my website, chriscunard.com. In the years since her debut, the ship has become a firm favourite among thousands of travellers across the globe. QM2's unique one-off design is both powerful and elegant. The ship's appearance, size, and onboard reputation attracts crowds of onlookers at ports all around the world. Yet there are some parts of QM2 that remain a mystery, even to regular travellers. Why, for example, does the ship have an enormous breakwater on her bow? Why were pods selected to move the ship rather than propellers? What is the connection between QM2's spar and her not having a rudder? And what is with the strange corridors that access the Queen's Room? To answer these questions and more, I spoke with QM2's designer, Stephen Payne. Queen Mary 2 is the only ship that regularly transits the North Atlantic Ocean. This route requires the ship to be able to handle the rough and stormy weather that the Atlantic is known for, and as the first transatlantic liner to be designed in a generation, Stephen Payne says that looking back at the successful ocean liners of the past was essential.
Designing Queen Mary 2, one of the things I did was to look at as many of the older ships as possible, find things that had worked on them, and then bring them together into Queen Mary 2. Having sailed on Rotterdam, the old Rotterdam, her forward end was enclosed or semi-enclosed, so that's where I got inspiration for doing the boat deck layout of Queen Mary 2. And then various other features. I wanted the bridge to have some similarity with QE2, but of course we have to have the enclosed bridge wings now to protect all the electronic. The mast I wanted to look like QE2, and of course the funnel. The trouble with the funnel is the height to get under the bridge in New York. To make the funnel work, I had to extend the wind scoop much higher than on QE2, but that really makes the funnel effective.
One of the unique features of Queen Mary 2 is the ship's breakwater. A large curved structure, the breakwater sits at the forward end of Deck 6 and is there to deflect water away from the forward superstructure. The French liner Normandy inspired this design, which protects the ship during the Atlantic crossings by ensuring that large and powerful waves do not crash into the large glass windows at the forward end of QM2. Another unique feature of the QM2's design is her stern. From the open deck it appears curved, like a cruiser stern found on the ocean liners of yesteryear. Yet from the waterline it appears to be more boxy, reminiscent of the stern of today's modern cruise ships. Known as a Costanzi stern, the design blends the traditional cruiser stern with the modern and efficient transom sterns used on today's cruise ships. This allows for maximum efficiency and strength, essential for transatlantic travel.
That came about is because for hydrodynamic efficiency, the transom is best. It falls the flow of water into thinking the ship's longer, and therefore it's easier to push through the water than a cruiser stern. The trouble is, in rough weather, when the ship is pitching, the great flat transom coming in and out of the water, you get a lot of wave action underneath. I remembered that an Italian naval architect in the 60s called Costanzi, he had this hybrid transom cruiser stern. So I went to the yard and I said, that's what we want. I must say they were fairly sceptical. We then built the mock-up and put it through the model tests, and it worked fine. So that's what we have.
The first ocean liners were paddle steamers. They used coal-powered steam engines to turn large paddle wheels, which in turn moved the ship. Propellers eclipsed this technologies by the 1880s, with propellers becoming the dominant form of propulsion for over a century. Although steam engines continued to power ocean liners, by 1987 even the QE2 had become converted to diesel. Queen Mary 2 is different. A combination of diesel engines and gas turbines generate electrical power, which feed giant Rolls-Royce pods. These pods are suspended from the aft end of the ship's hull, under the waterline. The pods each weigh the same as a jumbo jet, and pull the ship through the water. As two of them can rotate 360 degrees, they eliminate the need for a rudder, and are highly efficient. But Queen Mary 2's design pushed podded propulsion to its limit. Never before had pods been called upon to drive an ocean liner across the Atlantic at speeds of up to 30 knots.
Using pods, we save about 7 to 8% fuel compared if we just had normal shafts. She needed the 4 because of the power required. She's already got the largest pods on a commercial ship. Originally, I designed the ship to have 2 pods and a center propeller, but the amount of power that would be required on the center propeller was so high that it was predicted the vibrations would be too much. And originally, there was going to be a rudder as well. The idea was, on the early pods, they were steered using a hydraulic system. And the hydraulic system, there's always some what we call hunting, where it doesn't stay in a fixed position, it sort of wobbles. And I thought with the ship travelling at such high speed and the pods wobbling, it would sort of snake across the Atlantic rather than going straight across. So my idea was to lock the pods and steer using the rudder. And then very early on in the project, Rolls-Royce came to me and they said, we will develop an electric steering mechanism for the pods. So as soon as they did that, and I knew that the pods would be able to be precisely controlled, I was able to delete the rudder and the steering gear and get a credit for that.
This credit, or reduction in the cost of the originally proposed hybrid propulsion system, allowed Stephen Payne and his team to refocus on the ship's interior, and it is here where the deletion of the proposed rudder and the QM2's Canyon Ranch spar are linked.
We had set out the spar and the design of the spar, and then Howard Frank, who was the deputy chairman of Carnival, he went on vacation to Canyon Ranch, enjoyed the experience so much, he said he wanted Canyon Ranch on the Queen Mary 2 to change everything that had already, all the work that had previously been done. The shipyard wanted an extra cost. And so basically deleting the rudder and the steering gear paid for the new spar.
QM2's Britannia Restaurant is one of the grandest rooms to ever go to sea. Spanning 3 decks, it occupies the full width of the ship. The Queen's Room is found aft of the Britannia Restaurant. As the ship's ballroom, it is an essential part of the QM2 experience. By getting passengers from the forward end of the ship to the Queen's Room without having them traipsing through the Britannia Restaurant was a challenge, one which called for the creation of an additional hidden deck, which is perhaps one of the more controversial aspects of the ship's internal design.
There's a tremendous amount of criticism about those walkways. A lot of people don't like them and that, but the position of the storerooms basically dictates where the galley is, and the galley obviously then has a knock-on of where you put the main dining room. And I wanted the main dining room to be 2/3 aft. That is the balance point for the ship motion. So I wanted it there so that you would feel the motion the absolute least in the dining room. Okay. And it's the same with the duplex apartments. That's why they're 2/3 along the length of the ship at the end of the superstructure, because that's the least motion. So that was there. And then obviously we forward of that we have the chart room and Sir Samuel's and the Golden Lion on the deck below. And we were trying to find a way for people to get obviously past the dining room into the Queen's room. And with that dining room being so big and the 4.5 meters of each deck and having 2 decks, I must admit, I didn't come up with the idea of having those sort of hidden walkways.
Sure.
But it was a brilliant idea, and works very well.
Queen Mary 2 is truly unique with lots of features to explore. If you have any questions about Queen Mary 2's design, please ask me on my Instagram channel at www.instagram.com/ChrisCunard. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for further ocean liner and cruising videos. If you're interested in ocean liner history, check out my comprehensive tour of the QE2, one of the most famous ocean liners of all time. Or if you're more interested in finding out about the latest cruise news, check out my cruise news playlist. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I hope to see you on board.